So it was discussed 10 years ago as well, not much? Oh, I see.
10 years ago, we didn't have none of this. It all got done in the back room.
Huh.
All that done in the back room 10 years ago.
But they didn't change.
I was told where I was going to be, and that was it.
But I mean, 10 years ago, and again, I don't remember.
About a minute or so after 7. We still have a sign-up sheet up here if you want to get up and speak. We're just asking you please sign in, give us your address or whatever. First of all, ask the folks who are the main speakers this evening to identify themselves. They're probably pretty well known to everybody here, but just make sure that everybody knows who the players are. You can't tell the score without a scorecard. Start doing Mr. Azinger.
Is mic on?
Nope.
Yes, press.
There's a switch on the bottom you can turn on all the time.
There you go.
Is it on now? I didn't know I was going to speak first.
Well, we're just doing introductions at this point.
Oh, okay. Just say that. My name's Tom Azinger. I'm delegate from the 10th District. I'm not on the Redistricting Committee, but I'm sure interested in what's going to happen.
John Ellen, I'm in the 10th District.
Dan Pauling, 10th District, and thank you all for coming. And I want to give a special thanks to John for picking this day. It's the hottest day in the year. He can make us all put on fit tonight. So thank you, John, for that.
No problem. We'll also be hearing from Jamie Sixwood, County Clerk, in this moment, but I've been asked to start the meeting with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. We'll ask Mr. John Ellen to lead us in a moment of prayer, and then we'll be going.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to gather together and engage in an important civics event as we try to figure out the best way to apportion our representation so that all people may have a voice in this wonderful system that you created. Please do not let the air conditioner fail us as we go through this process tonight. In the name of Jesus, amen.
If you'll continue to stand, join me in the pledge to salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to ask Mr. Jamie Six to come up and give us a little bit of a view of the frame of discussion.
First of all, I'd also like to recognize one other person with us tonight. Sue Morgan's the county clerk, my counterpart in Pleasants County. She came down for this evening. And also George Capel, right here, he's working in our office part-time this summer in election, so he's here to also hear what we have to say. From a county clerk standpoint, the reason why the clerks across the state would like to see the redistricting done sooner than later is because there's a lot of things you all will trigger, as you all know, that the public needs to understand, is we have to make sure that our lines, our precinct lines, are the same as the lines that they draw. And that's why sometimes people say, well, my neighbor, they go to the precinct right beside the fire station right by me, and I have to drive 5 miles to go to my precinct. It's because you have 2 different ballot stops. And as they go through the process, that's right now with a vote for 3, keep less ballot stops. But if we do go to single member districts and have more ballot styles, then we have to draw those lines. The next thing that we will do once you all are done is then we will work with Connie Schaefer, the city clerk, making sure that the city council districts are drawn. And then the final step will be the county commissioners would then redistrict the District A, B, and C that affects the Board of Education and the county commission races that they have to live within. We've been working with the Census Bureau for a couple of years. The clerks are getting ready for this. We've been working with the Census Bureau getting ready. We had to get all of our precincts lines to them about 2 years ago as they start getting ready for the census count. And in years past, the Census Bureau used to recognize ridges and a lot more less physical items. They've cracked down on that, and they made us, the only thing that they will allow for census blocks, and every time there's a block, there has to be enough of a sampling in that block of people that you can't have just one person, and all of a sudden you say, okay, the average income for that block is X amount, well, that's that one person's income. So you had to have these different census blocks, and they did away with being able to use the ridges that we've used in the past, and made us go down and use the roads, power lines, railroad lines, creeks, and so forth. So that's what makes it a little harder for the clerks and more frustrating for the voters sometimes, is we have to now put you in a different precinct than you were before that was more convenient, but it's a different ballot stop. And if they use you as one of the counts for a certain district or a census block, then we have to make sure that you are voting for the person that they have identified in their count. So that's kind of the overview. Dan called me today and asked me to kind of give just a heads up about what we've been through as clerks and what we will do once you are done. And that's why I understand hopefully August, during your entrance, you might all may do a special session. As last I heard, that's not set for sure. It is definitely. So, and then that will get the ball started for the city council and the county commission at the end, as I mentioned. So,
very good. Thank you very much. But we're going to give the other three folks up here an opportunity to speak. Anybody else who's registered as one of the main speakers here, and then we'll take a short break and look at some of the maps. Go ahead.
Tom, you want to say a few things real quick before I get the presentation? Yes.
Thank you. My grandchildren are in town, and I may leave a little early. I only get to see them 3 or 4 times a year. But Bill Anderson asked me to say a few words for him. As far as the congressional districts, Bill's in favor of leaving them as they are, except for moving Mason County into the 3rd congressional district, or the most southern of the 3. As far as the delegate districts, I think he's pretty much in favor of leaving the 8th and the 9th pretty much as they are. And then we have to make some minor adjustments to population. The 10th, he's essentially for single-member districts. But I don't think we'll end up with all single-member districts. I think we'll end up with a few more than we had before. But I'm not confident that we're going to get all single-member districts. It'd be all right with me, but it would help me personally from a selfish standpoint, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
John, I guess what I'm hoping maybe you can help us do as you start your comments is, I mean, I think everybody here understands that after you do a census, there has to be some reapportionment. You have to try to make things fit in with the census, with everything else. But I guess my curiosity, maybe other people's is, and maybe they know a lot more about this than I do, and that is why this year such a big discussion about going back to single districts as opposed to previous censuses, where maybe that was not such a big deal. So,
Single-member districts, is that what you're referring to?
yeah.
It's picked up a lot more this cycle that I can recall. Although I don't have much recollection of redistricting 10 years ago, I was there, and it pretty much was done without much input the last time. And so I think people just have taken it for granted in the past and are going so less now, because there's a lot of good reasons that I feel to go to single-member districts. Now, as we'll discuss later, I think it's easier to do in some areas and needs to be done in some areas for sure than it is in other areas. Primarily those other areas being the municipalities. Then you get into a little more dicey situation. Okay. We'll come down. This is going to be a visual presentation. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do this. See, the senators may have beat us to the punch time-wise, but as you can see, Dan and I, we got all the good-looking maps here for you tonight. Every 10 years we do redistricting, and of course it's population-based. In the last census, we had 1,853,000 100,000 people in West Virginia. Since we have 100 delegates, that means every delegate per the Constitution has to represent 18,530 individuals. That's the most important fact we have to take into account when redistricting. We have to follow the population with some allowance for variance, about 5% either way. You don't have to hit it dead on. We have 17 senatorial districts. I believe it's about 109,000 for each senatorial district, and each senator represents, each district has 2 senators. And then of course we have 3 congressional districts that we also have to redistrict, and I believe those are at about 609,000. I can't recall the exact number for the senatorial districts, or the congressional districts, and unlike our variance under our Constitution, they have to be almost dead on. They can have very little variance in the congressional districts. My understanding is the Senate will do the congressional district. Of course, we'll have to approve it in the House. Then, of course, the Senate will draw their own maps regarding the senatorial districts, and we'll do so for the House of Delegates. Now, as you may know, in the House of Delegates, we have, although we have 100 delegates, we don't have 100 districts. We have 58 districts in the House. We have, unlike many other areas of the country, we have what are known as multi-member districts. And of course, one of them here is, as shown on the map, is the 10th delegate district. And we have 3 delegates, all of us are here today, and we collectively represent the whole district. You basically take that 18,530 number I told you about in the census, and you multiply it by 3, and that gives you the ideal population for a 3-member district. The other districts in Wood County, if you go up north, you have, of course, Delegate Anderson, and down south and in Wood County, this area, you have now Delegate Anna Border, and those are both single-member districts. Now, the thing you also try to keep in mind when you're doing redistricting is you want to try to, as much as possible, preserve county lines. You also want to, as much as possible, keep precincts intact. So, as Jamie indicated, you don't end up with part of one precinct in the city, and then they may be subject to city elections in another precinct in a different district. When you start splitting up precincts, then they have to start readjusting the map a lot more. In West Virginia, we range in size again from single-member districts all the way down to, this map will be a little bit too small, but I think a lot of you have heard about the district down in Kanawha County, the 30th member district, which goes from basically one end of Kanawha County to the other, and is a 7-member district with over 120,000 people, I believe. In other words, all 7 members of those, the House of Delegate members there, collectively represent well over 100,000 people, and that district has obviously garnered a lot of criticism. In Wood County, what we have with our census is we are all within the tolerances in this area. The 8th, 9th, and 10th saw very little change in population. So theoretically, we don't have to do anything. Now, down south, it's a nightmare down south. They have lost a significant population in the coalfield counties, and they're going to lose some positions. They're going to lose some delegate seats. We are all here, in this area, we're within tolerances. The 10th district has a population of 55,275. The ideal is 55,590, so we're only about 300 off of the ideal, which is a deviation of less than 0.5%. So you can see that this is the current makeup of the district. This is one option for redistricting. We could leave the 10th district exactly as you see it here, and we could leave our adjoining 8th and 9th districts exactly as they are right now. But, I have always believed in the concept and the principles behind single-member districts, and some of the arguments, of course, are that they're more one-on-one representation, one person, one vote. You have more accountability, again, because it's one delegate and you're not in a group of delegates. And you also have, it's easier access for somebody to run. It's more expensive to run typically in a multi-member district as opposed to a single-member district. When we started looking at the maps, then we saw some other issues though. The arguments against breaking up the 10th delegate district, for instance, are number one, with 3 members collectively representing the area, we cover a lot of different committees. Dan has finance, I have judiciary, and Tom has government organizations. You pretty much can always get any one of us about any time when you have a 3-member district. And probably most importantly, and the toughest thing for us is this whole thing of issues of communities of interest. If you're going to break it up, how do you, or can you, preserve communities of interest? Now, some things that I'll close on here, and I'll just point out a few numbers regarding the 10th district, and then Dan is going to actually talk about some actual proposals, rough drafts that we have made. Some to make minor adjustments, and some to turn this into single-member districts here. We'll talk about that in a minute. But some general things you can note about the 10th delegate district. It is very compact compared to the other areas of the state. It is densely populated in the district. About 80% of our district, if you live in the 10th, is in the cities of Vienna, Parkersburg, or North Hills. So it's a pretty urban district. It covers down through Washington and Lubeck. It goes over toward little portions of Rockport, and then it has the city of Parkersburg is essentially right here. Then you have the city of Vienna up here, and then the city of North Hills. When I started looking at this map, I said, well, what about a district down in this area? And I found that if you take all the areas down here and you try to leave Parkersburg alone, in this area of Blennerhassett, Washington, Lubeck, you come up with 13,376 people. So there's not enough individuals down there to make a single-member district without going into the city. Another fact that you may want to keep in mind is with the city of Parkersburg at about 33,000 people, we do not have enough people in the city of Parkersburg to have 2 delegates whose districts are entirely within the bounds of the city. It's not big enough. The city of Vienna up here, you know, it makes sense to maybe have a single-member district comprised of the city of Vienna, keep it intact, and the city of North Hills. I thought, well, you know, that's a good possibility, but it doesn't even come close to the population requirements. We're constricted by the census. Vienna with about 10 or 11,000 people. In North Hills with just under 1,000, you're far short of the 18,000. So again, you have to come up into the city of Parkersburg in order to craft a single-member district up in that area. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. I'll let Dan come down and show you just where some of those lines may lie and what it means for this area if we do decide to break up the 10th into 3-member districts, 3 single-member districts.
Excellent job, John. What I did is just follow up on what John, we had conversations with people, different scenarios. So I called the committee down there and said, here's what I want you to draw up. Talk about each one as we go across and explain what they are and how we got there. This map right here shows the 8th district as it is out here, the 9th district as it is here. Now here's the 10th, which is the multi-delegate district. And I had to break that up into 3 districts within the 10th, break it up into 3. And try and get the numbers as equal as you could to the 18,500 and try and keep it following precinct lines without Jamie having to change precincts. Keep it in some kind of a sense of togetherness. So this yellow spot up here would be, just say 10A, and this is Vienna, North Hills, and this area here. Then 10B would be, and it'd come into North Parkersburg. All this area here, North Parkersburg, along with Vienna, to make the 18,000 like John said. Then here, this would be North Parkersburg, and South Parkersburg part of it would be 10B, and you get your 18,500. Then you take the rest of South Parkersburg and put in with Lubeck, Washington Bottom, and that area to get the third one. So that there is just to take precincts as they are, get the numbers as close as he could, This is what he came up with. Now, even at that, the deviation on 10A, and these are within the tolerances, it's 2.96 over the magic number 0, but you can be plus or minus 5, so it's okay. 10B here would be minus 1.76, just be a little bit short of being perfect, so that's not bad there. And then this one here is 2.8. So he did just what we asked him to do, get as close as you can, you know, without messing precincts around and gerrymandering and all that. So that's what this map here shows. This map here shows, I told him I wanted him to go, and if he could get a community of interest in just urban area as to rural, and all single member districts within the 10th, and he couldn't do it. So I said, okay, try this for me. I said, make me 5 equal districts within Wood County, including Ware County like it is now. Make me 5 equal districts, and want all of them to start at the river and go to the eastern part of the county. Just straight line, straight shot as you can make it without changing precincts. Now that's what this shows, and what it shows a mess, but anyway, the first one, A, would be Williamstown, Boaz, and it would come out here from the river and hit the county line. Then this yellow one would be B. This would have the upper part of Vienna in it also. This one, it would have the middle part of Vienna and out through North Hills, clear out through Walker and the county line. Then C would start here at the river, come through the North Parkersburg, the southern part of Vienna, and clear out here to the county line. D would have most of South Parkersburg, right on out to the county line. E would be Lubeck, Worcester Bottom, and would take all of Ware County also. Okay, now that's 5 totally new single delegate districts. That's what that map shows. And like I said, he did it just as I asked him. I told him, I don't care who lives where, whose district it is now, who's running what, I don't care about that. Just take a look and see what the numbers show. And that's what they did for us. This map here, I told him to take the 10th, as it currently is, like John explained it, and see what precincts we can change and make the numbers as close to 0 for all 3 precincts as we can, with taking into consideration of taking the precincts that are out of Parkersburg and putting them in with the rest of Parkersburg in the 10th. I said, try that and see what that looks like. So that's what this map shows. Now here's one precinct here, 27, now here that's in the 9th. And it would, if it would come into Parkersburg, it would take the 974 people. If it would come into the 10th district, it would take the 9th precinct and make it 1.3 within the perfect number. These precincts here, should they come out of the 8th into the 10th, and these precincts here come out of the 10th into the 8th, that would make the 8th within 0.44% of the perfect number. And that would make the 10th within 0.33 of the perfect number. So he did just what I asked him to, take whatever you have to, switch it around, with the, in light of keeping them together, not jumping out here and grabbing one and jumping there, and getting me as close to a 0 on all 3, the 8th, 9th, and 10th as they are now. So that's what these 3 maps show. These are just graphs, but that's how you can go look at the numbers, see what you can do, and try and get it as good as you can. And like John said, we're within the 0.5 now. We may not have to do anything. The only thing that throws me a little caution is if you have growth or loss of population in an area over the next 10 years, you may be lopsided within a few years. And the common theory on that people you talk to say while you're doing it, try and get as close to that 0 as you can. So that's why I had him do this here.
Delegate Poland's plan is that we take a short break. Let
everybody look at the maps and then
I have one question for you, John. You were using some math here talking about population. You were saying the population of West Virginia was 1,853,000. That's the 2000 census, is that correct?
No, that's
2010? Okay. Because
up
we
on
have
top.
up here, this population number here says 1,797,719. What is that?
I'm not sure why they not pulled that up.
Okay.
That's to try to, I think, compare the variations you're allowed. That's what that does.
I was just a little bit confused about what the actual population is, but you're saying the 2010 statewide population is 1,853,000. Gotcha. Very good.
And John, I forgot just one quick thing.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, thank you. The reason Bill Anderson isn't here, I forgot to mention, is he's on the Marcellus Shale Committee, They're meeting in Wheeling tonight, and he almost has to be there, and he couldn't make it. Anna Borders in Florida, they all know she lost her husband. I think she's down there for a few days. She should be back any day now, but that's why they're not here.
So let's show your idea for folks to be able to come up and look at the maps, and then we'll.
Yeah, absolutely, then we'll do the comments, questions.
And there's, at the top there, there's a map of the whole state, a smaller one, and also some numbers of each area.